FedEx, Mission Tortilla, Wise Snacks, Hers Snacks, Mr. Softy, Simply Beverage. What do all these things have in common, Ken?
If you don't make money, they don't make money. As far as I'm concerned, we are selling a hidden business that's in plain sight.
Tell me about one of your customers that have just had like a really huge success story. Think of one.
Yeah, no, I could think of a few. Netting about $50,000 a year to anywhere up to maybe $180,000 a year. Those are the smaller routes. It's a truly turnkey operation. In almost all cases, the truck comes with the route. The beauty of the route business is you could now build up that route. And the minute you get one additional customer, that customer, you're now making more money every single week, and you've increased the asset value of the business.
All right, guys, just want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors and our longtime partners, OTR Solutions. Listen, if you need factoring or you're in a current factoring relationship and you're not, having the best experience, I implore you to go check out OTR Solutions. They are the #1 factoring company in the country. They are the only factoring company that offers true non-recourse factoring, which means that, they'll make sure that they take care of everything that you need, your cash flow and so forth, and you don't have to have any headaches or worry about anything else. All right, they're going to take care of it for you. Go check out OTR Solutions now. Click the link below in the bio, or you can text OTRTNH to 80483. That's OTRTNH to 80483, and that'll help you skip the line to get directly with one of our sales reps. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
This is Ken Sussman from Route Brokers Incorporated, and you are now watching Truck and Hustle.
Hustle fam, we are back with another amazing episode. And today I have a very, very special guest joining me all the way from Long Island. So what part of Long Island are you in?
We're in Great Neck, Long Island.
Great Neck, Long Island, New York. I'm a New Yorker as well. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So,
you're a neighbor.
We're kind of like neighbors, Mr. Ken Sussman, the CEO of Route Brokers Incorporated, man. Thank you so much for being here, Ken. How are you today, man?
I'm great, and thank you for having me.
All right. So this is going to be a very interesting podcast. We have a lot to talk about. I actually took notes. I typically don't take notes for my podcast or actually have notes for questions, but I wanted to make sure I got everything I could from you. So I got questions for you. So I hope you're ready.
Okay. So I'm in trouble now, huh?
You're in trouble. All right. So I'm going to start it off like this. FedEx, Mission Tortilla, Wise Snacks, Hers Snacks, Mr. Softy, Simply Beverage. What do all these things have in common, Ken?
They are routes. They are routes that basically distribute products to stores, or in the case of FedEx, they're delivering the products to people's homes and businesses. Most people, what we've found over the last 40 years is most people don't even know that these routes exist. They see the routes, but they don't assume that anyone owns them. They assume they're owned by the companies, by Mr. Softy, by Hers, by FedEx. Most people, if you tell them that every delivery driver that comes to their home with a FedEx package doesn't work for FedEx, will be astounded. They just can't believe that. And actually, that is true. There's over 5,000 FedEx independent distributors across the nation, and each one of them has probably 15 to maybe 30 different routes under their auspices. And when you're talking, so that's for FedEx routes.
Yeah.
FedEx routes are usually larger, but when you're talking about the other routes, a Mission route, a Martin's potato roll route, Utz routes, Hers routes, very often they are operated by owner-operators, where the person actually driving the truck is the owner of the business.
It's like a solopreneur type of business.
Yes, but it's what's happening more recently is that these businesses are they're growing, and very often people are using it as an additional source of income where they hire someone to operate the route for them. In other words, basically a driver and sometimes a helper. And basically, they might just do collections. They might just do the managerial part. That's on the smaller routes.
Yeah.
And when I say a smaller route, I'm talking about a route that at a minimum is probably netting about $50,000 a year to anywhere up to maybe $180,000 a year. Those are the smaller routes. And when I say net, I mean after all expenses. I do not mean that, well, you're netting this and then you have to take out gas, insurance, maintenance, drivers, this. When we say net, we mean that is what you will bring home on your first week after taking over the route.
Yeah.
These are not startups. We don't sell startup businesses. We sell routes that are already in business, usually anywhere from 5 to 35 years, and they're already making money. And basically, it's a very simple business model.
Yeah, that's very important, net, because a lot of times the gross can be quite an illusion, right? So I love that you kind of put that out there, that you guys are talking about the net, what you actually bring home. So your company, Route Brokers, you're the founder, Route Brokers Incorporated. You've been doing this for 40 years, since 1985. So I'm going to call you an OG in this space, right? 40 years brokering these routes. What made you decide to get into this industry?
I used to work for Bloomingdale's. And Bloomingdale's had a side area which was called Fred the Furrier. Most people your age are not going to even know this. And basically, I was running their operation, the Fred the Furrier division of the company. And basically, what we were doing is selling furs. I had at the time, one of the people who worked for me had a friend who had a Tropicana route. And he found it very difficult to find all of the information to actually make a decision to buy that Tropicana route. So after we started working together, we actually decided that this was a situation where we can actually do a really professional job where no one was really doing it professionally. At that time, routes were really referred to as distribution businesses. They were not even referred to as routes. So we analyzed the business, and me and him left the company, Bloomingdale's and Fred the Furrier, and we started up Route Brokers. We were in the black in terms of operational revenue, probably within 6 months, and the rest is sort of history.
Got it. Now, did you ever purchase a route at any time?
No, I never did.
Got it. No, but you got in the business of making sure that those transactions go smoothly for your clients.
Yes. We actually created the marketplace for the route business.
Really?
There really was no marketplace for the sale of routes. What it typically had been was in people's basements, or, in a garage, or you'd meet in a diner. There was no real marketplace. So we actually did it professionally. We started to get all of our information about all of the routes, and we created a way where it became an easy process for someone to analyze a route and actually make a decision if this is the right opportunity for them. And what we do is we really try to help them in deciding which is the right opportunity and give them all the information. And we don't charge anything to the buyers for our service. And we actually also encourage buyers not to put down a dime on any business until they are 110% sure that this is the business that they want.
Business owners are used to wearing many hats, but accountant should not be one of them. Receipts, payroll, taxes, 1099s, insurance, bookkeeping, it's time to get your back office off your back. You can consolidate your financial operations into one flat monthly plan that takes care of all of your accounting, payroll, and tax needs. Meet Transpo CFO, powered by Venning, a full-service CPA and business advisor, helping companies like yours save time, money, and headaches. Hate math? We love it and have been doing this since 1978. We manage your entire financial operating system and provide you with a single point of contact, saving you time and money so you can get out of the back office and back to business.
I love that. I love that. Give me a range of what these routes sell for. I know we're talking about a bunch of different routes. You've sold thousands over the years.
That's correct.
But give me a range, low end to high end, just to get a idea of what these things are moving for these days.
Routes could go for anywhere from as low as $50,000 for the business. And again, they're already established, already making money. To we have routes that are going for over $2 million. The range is a great range, but these are still considered small businesses. And you typically would be talking about if a route is going for $50,000, you'd probably be talking about maybe netting, I would say, anywhere from $800 maybe to $1,000 per week. And if you're talking about a $2 million, let's say a FedEx route, netting probably you're talking about, I think we have one right now that's netting $43,000 a month. And that's going for approximately $2 million.
Got it. Who is your typical customer? Who looks to buy these type of routes? Give me an idea of the kind of people that are interested in these type of routes.
Well, it used to be more of a blue collar audience. People who were workers, they were carpenters, firemen, cops, people who basically worked with their hands. But nowadays, we're getting, I would say, about 40% of our buyers are coming from a white-collar environment. And
more academic.
What's that?
More academic.
Yes. In other words, we're there. That's why we're also getting more people who are looking to manage these businesses as opposed to being the actual driver. Now, there are some routes where the companies want you on the route. In other words, they insist. They want you to be individually operating the route. But as long as you can show the company that you're going to make sure it manages and runs properly, the company is only that you're buying your product from, whether it's Wise or Utz or Mission, they're only concerned about one thing, that you represent them properly and that you maximize the sales, because that's how they make money. If you don't make money, they don't make money. So they just want to make sure that the maximum amount of sales are generated by each route.
And we'll talk about that. Why do you think there's a shift in the people who are interested in these routes?
I think a big thing that changed the way people look at this business is, first of all, is I think during COVID, people had a little more opportunity to start looking at other types of businesses that they weren't even aware are available for sale. We actually, as far as I'm concerned, we are selling a hidden business that's in plain sight. In other words, everyone knows that there are routes, but no one realized that they were businesses. During COVID, it became much more obvious because everything was into, well, I want it delivered to my home or this or that. And people started asking a lot more questions. But basically, what we're having now is a lot of people don't want to be in the corporate rat race. So this is a way they can own their own business. It's a very simple business model. It's not something that's complicated to operate. You're basically going to a depot, you're picking up your product, you're then selling your product at a profit to the stores, and you basically, the expenses are gas, insurance, maintenance, maybe a driver, some tolls if necessary. But we always figure out for the buyer in advance all of those expenses, and we try to show them exactly where this route is so that they can give a good comparison, one route to another.
Got it. How long do people typically stay in the business? And then the flip side to that question is, why do people sell?
Oh, good question. Basically, we have customers who have been in this business for 30 years, possibly even longer. And a lot of them, of those long-timers in it, basically, they are constantly looking for opportunities that they can buy and build up and then sell. We have some customers who've bought and sold like 7, 8, 9 routes over the years. And what they do is they buy a route that they feel has a lot of potential to be built up, and they grow it. And the beauty of the route business is the more it's netting, the more money you can sell it for. So as soon as you pick up a new customer, that route has now increased in value. And what's also great is you also increase your weekly net. And now you're increasing that for the rest of the time that you're servicing that customer. So you're immediately making more money on a weekly basis. Plus, you've also increased the value of the route. Now, over a 2-year, 3-year period, you might have taken a route that was netting, let's say, $1,200 a week up to $1,700 or maybe to $2,000 a week. In some cases, you can sell off a piece of the route and still keep the rest of the route for yourself.
Yeah.
So you can get the profits from it.
Got it. So that's what we talk about when you say like the maximizing the sales, right? And that's what you said a lot of the vendors are interested in. When go to do that, right? Because you kind of have this business turnkey. You come into the business, you have that you purchase the existing customers and everything that you're already servicing. Then you have to go out and kind of create a sales team to find more customers. How does that kind of look? And I know we're talking about different routes here, but let's like the bread routes and stuff like that, like the snack routes. That's more customer base. How does that work? Do you have like a sales team that's going to sell, going door to door, looking for new people? Like, tell me how that process looks.
Okay. Well, typically on an independent route that you're the person driving the truck, you're not hiring a salesperson to work for you. You could, but typically you're not. What you're doing is you're driving around and you pass some new construction and it looks like they're building a deli. So you stop in there and you say, is the owner around? No, he's not here now, but he'll be here on Wednesday. So you go back on Wednesday and you say, I see you're building a real nice deli here. And I just want you to know I distribute Wise potato chips. And I'd like to bring you, your initial order and, be able to help you out in any way I can, and really basically have the product so that you can be selling more to your customers.
You're selling them the product. So you're saying your store should carry Wise and I can deliver that Wise to you.
That's correct. And once you get that stop, it's in the case of Wise, that's a protected stop. In other words, once you take that first order, the master distributor of Wise will protect you. And if, for argument's sake, let's say I own a Wise route and you own a Wise route.
Yeah.
You can't go into my stop. In other words, and I can't go into your stop.
Really?
Because that's a protected stop. Because the company doesn't want me and you bargaining with that same store owner for the same product.
Right.
Instead, they just want the sales. So
Right.
what they're doing is they're saying, hey, if you're aggressive and you're building up this business, we want to make sure that you have what you need. And what you need is we're not going to let anyone else sell our product into your store.
Wow. So whatever is already established is pretty much it's solidified. It doesn't change unless that person sells that route that they've built up.
That's correct. And some routes are protected stops. Some routes are protected territories.
Can you explain the difference? I mean, stops kind of make sense. But
Okay.
go ahead, just explain for me.
Well, let's say we're talking about Brooklyn.
Okay.
Okay. If you have a protected stop route, you might be in many, many different towns within Brooklyn. You might be in Prospect Park, maybe Brooklyn Heights. You might be in many different areas. You're going to try to keep those stops as tight as possible and to keep it as a condensed business. But you could also come into the Bronx and sell. If you happen to have a friend who has a store in the Bronx and it's working enough volume, or you could go to Staten Island, or you could go to Queens. Okay. So that would be protected stops.
Okay.
Protected territory is you have a specific area. You have Prospect Park, Brooklyn Heights. I'm not as familiar with what areas are contiguous in Brooklyn, but basically any stop that is in those areas they're yours. So if I open up a new deli and it happens to be where you have a protected territory, I'm your customer. Even if someone else's uncle owns that deli and they also have a Wise route, they can't come into my territory because that's my territory. It doesn't matter any relationships. Basically, anyone in that territory who has a store, I'm the only one who could service that store.
Now, what if somebody lands a customer and that customer decides to no longer do business with them, and then they're no longer getting, like, let's say Wise, right? Like, yeah, I want the potato chips, but I no longer want the potato chips, right? So that contract is severed. Is it back open? Does it go back into like a pool? Like, how does that work?
After a certain period of time of a customer not being serviced, that would go back to being available. You must service it on a regular basis. But typically what you would be doing if someone said, I don't want Wise anymore, is ask the best sales question that could ever be asked. Why? Okay.
Right.
And find out. And basically an objection is a buy sign. Nerds, deal with my objection. I'm prepared to buy. Oh, I don't want Wise anymore because you let the shelf go empty. And now I have empty shelves and customers coming in, so I don't want your product anymore. Right. Well, that will never happen again, Mr. Customer. I will make sure that you always have that product on your shelf. I'll make sure that you're overstocked with product.
Right.
Okay, but if it happens again, I'm telling you, you're going to be out. Well, nerds, that's what you do. You don't lose stops, or you do everything you can to prevent yourself from losing stops. There's always attrition. There is always attrition, but the goal is, and what most route owners do, is they make sure that that attrition is kept to a minimum, number one, and number two, that they're always picking up new stops.
Got it. Do they have these people sign contracts for like a year or annually, or how does that work with the business?
You're talking about the retail stops?
Yes, sir. Yes.
No, the retailers don't sign any contracts.
Okay.
They don't sign any contracts. I don't think I've ever seen a retailer sign a contract.
So they're not actually locked into anything. It's just like, as long as we're paying, you're delivering, that's the relationship. And it's
right. It's a service business.
Okay.
If you provide good service, if you make sure the shelves are stocked, if you're selling me the product at a fair price. In other words, I have too many things as a store owner to worry about that I don't want to worry about. Are you stocking my shelves properly?
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I could just stay at the register and cash in when people are buying the product, not have empty shelves.
Got it. Tell me about one of your customers that have just had like a really huge success story that if you wanted to explain how someone can grow this business, like you would use them as an example. Like, just, you don't have to name names, obviously, but just kind of like where they started to what they grew to. If you could think of one.
Yeah, no, I could think of a few.
Okay.
I could think of an unbelievable success story with a woman and her husband who bought a FedEx route. They bought it in 2018. And I remember this particular woman in particular because of the fact at the time that she was buying the route, she was pregnant.
Okay.
And I thought, and I actually sent a letter into FedEx. They never responded. I thought I had a great PR story for them because if FedEx delivers and
right.
this new route owner delivers.
Right.
But they didn't, no one got back to me, but it's a big company, I understand.
Right.
But anyway, she bought a 5-truck route. It was doing about $9,000 of gross sales. And as of 2024, I believe she now has, I think, like 60 trucks.
Oh, wow.
And she's probably doing on a weekly basis, probably over $100,000 of gross sales.
Wow.
Gross sales. Now, I'm not talking net.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And by the way, on a FedEx route, typically what comes to the bottom line from your gross volume, that would probably be anywhere from a low of 16%, and it's quoted because different routes are different,
yep,
to as high as 25%.
Okay.
Coming right from the top line down to net after all expenses.
Got it.
And by the way, on a FedEx route, there are a lot of additional expenses that are not on other routes. First of all, you could have a payroll, a huge payroll, because if you have 60 trucks, you need 60 drivers.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
Now, this is where you come in your business. So challenges. What are some of the challenges with purchasing these routes? Why does a service like yours need to exist?
Okay. Our business is able to organize these various routes in a way so that people could make an easy decision. We create a snapshot for each route, and we also listen to our customers, our buyers, in terms of what their needs and wants and desires are, and try to match them with the right opportunity, because there's a lot of routes out there. And a lot of them are great opportunities, but they might not be in the right area. A lot of them might be very good opportunities, but the buyer doesn't have the type of dollars to invest in that particular one.
Right.
So we try to narrow down all of those variables so that the buyer is in a position where he can select based upon the businesses that make the most sense for him and his family.
Got it. And how do you guys know what routes are available?
Well, when you're in the business for 40 years, and we have sold thousands and thousands of routes over those 40 years, basically everyone knows us. Everyone comes back to us. We have a great reputation. We do the right thing by our customers, and you can't be in business for 40 years if you're not doing the right thing.
For sure. So is your rapport more so with the sellers, or is it with the distributors that's saying, hey, if you want to, who's coming to you and saying this route's for sale, so list it? Like, how does that work?
We basically, most of it is coming directly from the individual sellers of the routes.
Okay.
We do have a number of clients who also are master distributors or bakers, or they have the exclusive for the product, and they will come to us and say, one of our route owners is looking to sell, can you help them? And we will do everything in our power to assist them. But most of it comes to us from the individual route owners because they know us, they know our reputation. We possibly sold them the route.
Right.
So, people, as long as you're always trying to do the best for customers, they come back to you.
Now, do these sellers come with a purchase price already predetermined, or do you guys help them with that?
I see.
Do they come with a purchase price already?
In all fairness, when here maybe a little secret that comes out, I'll tell you. Most sellers, and I can't blame them, when they want to sell their business, are looking for the best possible price they can.
No, get out of here.
Can you believe this? Okay, so they come to us and we ask them, how much do you really want for the business? And we'll tell them if we feel that's high, if that's low, and anywhere in between. But what in most cases happens is that the seller is really in a situation where they want to get a good deal. They want to sell their business. So what we do is we actually are in a position where we can help them come up with a fair price that really makes sense, that we won't be in a position where it's overpriced, where someone is not going to even be interested in looking at the business.
Yeah.
So we do talk to the sellers, but ultimately it's the seller's decision. We can't control the price, but we do try to help the sellers, let them know where the price is on a fair basis.
What are some of the things that dictate that price? Because I'm sure, sellers, they may not even be educated about what the price should be, right? They may have their own value in their head, but what dictates the price of a route?
Okay, good question. Different routes go for different multiples of sales. Basically, routes will range from a low of maybe 1 times annual net, but that's very, very rare. And that's usually for a route that there's not that much of a specific call for. For argument's sake, I once sold a beer line cleaning route. I didn't even know there was anything called
What is it? Beer line
That's
cleaning?
what I said when he came to me. Well, a beer line cleaning route is between the keg and the spigot is a line.
Get
that
outta here.
line needs to be cleaned on a regular basis.
Wow.
This guy had a beer line cleaning route. I had never sold a beer line cleaning route before. I had no idea there was anything even. I'd never thought about the fact that you have to clean that line.
Right.
Well, we sold a route. That went probably for 1 times annual net. No one was looking for a beer line cleaning route, but it was a fair price. Window cleaning routes usually are lower multiples. But typically, I would say the average route is going for anywhere from 2 times to maybe 3.5 times annual net.
Okay.
There are some routes that go at higher multiples than that. For argument's sake, Boar's Head, typically you'd be talking about 4 times, maybe even higher. And sometimes people say, I want a Boar's Head route. And if they want it, personally, I think that, if I was personally buying a route, I don't need the name Boar's Head. I would be much more interested in having a good route that's established, that's making as much money as possible, and that I can continue to operate and make good money. But sometimes people say, hey, I only want this type of route. And if they do, and if we have that route available, we'll sell it to them.
Yeah. What about like location or like the density of the area? Like how much does that play a part in the price of these routes?
Area is very important. If a route is easier to operate based upon where it's located, that you don't have to do as much traveling, like a route in the Midwest, you're going to have to do a lot more traveling to service that route than a route that's in New York, in Brooklyn, or Long Island. Also, let's say on Long Island, a lot of people want to be in Long Island. The pickup they want in Long Island, they want to stay in Long Island. They don't want to have to go into the boroughs to actually pick up the product. So those routes will typically go for a higher multiple than other routes. So the product determines the multiple. The location determines the multiple. The net is always part of the multiple because that's what you're timesing that multiple time. The multiple we're talking about, when I say 3 times, I'm talking about three times your annual net. So if the route is netting, let's say, $50,000 or $100,000 a year, if it's 3 times a multiple, that's $300,000.
Okay. Got it. And as the business owner of these routes, who are you reporting to? Who do you have to make sure is satisfied and so forth? Like what's the chain of command?
Okay. It's according to the route, but the master distributor on a route that's a brand route, that would be the master distributor. So if you have an Utz route, if you have a Hers route, if you have a Mission route, the master distributor is the one that you have to make sure is happy. And how do they become happy? Selling product. It's always that same thing. And it's having a good relationship with the stores and selling product, making sure that the product is always being rotated. In other words, if you go into a store and you see a shelf built out with, let's say, all the bread on the shelf, typically what most people do is they assume that the bread in the front is what's the freshest, or that's what people typically pick.
Right.
But in all fairness, what a route owner is supposed to be doing is putting the oldest date code in the front so it sells before it goes out of code, put the freshest stuff in the back. So you have to make sure that that's done on a regular basis. So when you're delivering new product, you put the new product in the back and put the old product in the front.
Yeah, I always pick from the back, usually milk, bread. I don't know where I got it from, but I've always done that.
Our moms probably taught us that.
Yeah, always go to the back. I mean, well, you do realize like the expiration dates are usually like more recent in the back, right? Because
yes.
That's how they usually rotate. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about like equipment and so forth? Like, so a lot of these routes have trucks and different equipment pieces. Do they typically come with the routes all in, or do you have to purchase equipment? How does that work?
I'm going to answer that, but I want to just go back on your last question.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're talking about, let's say, a FedEx route, that's a little different. In other words, yes, you are reporting to FedEx, and you have to run that route according to the rules and regulations of how FedEx wants it run. For argument's sake, if you're shipping out a FedEx package and it's supposed to be delivered tomorrow, you expect that to be delivered tomorrow, and in most cases, it will be delivered tomorrow.
Right.
Well, when that package gets to the final mile delivery owner of the route, the independent contractor, he needs to make sure that he has people to get it delivered when it's supposed to be delivered. So he is always being evaluated based upon that he is able to fulfill what FedEx needs based upon the guarantees they gave to the customer who ordered to have that package delivered in the first place.
If you don't meet their expectations, what can happen?
FedEx will give you warnings, and basically what you do is if you have a warning, it's like anything. If someone tells you in your business, if someone tells you, well, I have a problem with this, you fix it. In other words, you always have the ability
You got to tighten up.
You got to tighten up. You have to make sure that you have enough drivers so that you can do all of these deliveries. And if necessary, if there's a package and it really needs to get out there and somehow you don't have a driver to get out there, you might actually, even though you're managing 50 different drivers out there, you might just get in your car and just deliver that one package yourself because you don't want there to be a problem.
Right.
And that's the goal.
Do they have the power to expel you from a route if they wanted to and just say, you know what, this is not working out? How?
If you do, this is in any business. If whether you have FedEx over you or you have Mission Tortilla over you or you have any business, if you don't service the business properly, you will be in trouble.
Yeah.
And in truck and hustle. In other words, I'm sure, you need to make sure that your business does hustle.
That's right.
If it doesn't hustle, it's not going to work.
That's right.
And I'm sure just getting to know you, I see that you do know how to make things happen.
That's right.
In other words, I do the same thing in my business, and that's what I've been doing. But that's in any business. If you don't service the business right, first of all, you shouldn't be in your own business.
Yeah.
If you're in your own business, you need to say, hey, the buck stops with me, and be responsible for the buck really stopping with you, because if you don't make the buck stop with you, then no one else will.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
But you asked that other question.
I did.
Go back to, what was that one again?
So it's not written down. This came from my head. I got a bunch that I haven't even gotten to yet.
Okay.
So basically, I was saying, like, with the purchases of these businesses, I know there's like equipment that comes with it sometimes, maybe like tools or whatever, like that comes with the job, right? Does that usually all kind of go in, or does like the buyer have to like buy their own equipment, or how does that work?
It's a truly turnkey operation. In almost all cases, the truck comes with the route. There is nothing that the buyer typically needs to do, because all of the equipment, if we're talking about hand trucks, the truck indeed, in other words, if there are racks in the stores, everything comes with the route. In most cases, the trucks are owned. And if there's any notes owned on those trucks, where the seller still is paying the bank or whatever for a truck, included in the purchase price is the truck free and clear at the time of closing. So if the route is going for $250,000 and there's a truck that has $20,000 remaining in a note at closing, out of that purchase price, the seller is responsible for paying off any remaining. So there's no additional cost. When you're talking about, let's say, a FedEx route, you could be talking about substantial amount of dollar value in the actual rolling fleet, because you could be talking about anywhere from $200,000 to it could be $600,000, $700,000 just in the value of the trucks that come with the route.
Right.
And again, all of those trucks, even if they're currently under lease, will be delivered free and clear at the time of closing, unless some other arrangements are made between the buyer and seller. But almost always, the trucks are included free and clear.
Got it. Are there any other additional fees or dues or anything that the buyer would be responsible for that maybe is not spoken about up front, that once they purchase, hey, this is a due that you have to pay based on this relationship, right? Like, there's always these little things that you have to pay for. Are there anything like that exists?
Again, you obviously did a little research into his business, or you have just good questioning skills. Basically, it truly is a operation where you don't have anything else. I will tell you, what you might have is, if let's say you're buying a route and the purchase price is $400,000 with $200,000 down, and the seller is providing the financing, there is a note preparation fee. When we have one of our attorneys prepare it, it's usually around $1,000 to prepare the note. That would be the buyer's expense. If the buyer is forming a corporation, he would need to form a corporation. That would be his expense. Usually, and if anyone is having trouble finding a way of forming a corporation at a low price, we have a company that we work with that usually for around $500, they could form a corporation for you, and it could be done very, very rapidly. They do it nationwide.
Yeah.
What else? If there are trucks included in the purchase price, the buyer is responsible for the sales tax on those trucks. There are some routes that you would be buying that the trucks would be leased. That would be, let's say, like an Amazon route. An Amazon route, you don't own the trucks at all. The trucks are totally through a lease program that Amazon has set up. But whereas on a FedEx, almost always the trucks are owned by the company, or if they're leased, they'll be bought out of the lease at the time of closing. Amazon routes, there's typically no fleet cost. That's why an Amazon route that's netting X amount of dollars and a FedEx route that's netting the same might be at two separate price points, because the FedEx route includes $300,000, $400,000 of trucks. With the Amazon route, it's just leasing, of course.
You just now talked about seller financing. Can you expound on that and how that can be a benefit to the buyer, one, and then two, are there any other creative ways that people finance who's kind of looking at this video right now? They want to know, like, hey, I'm interested, but I don't know if I can come up with the funds. Like, talk about the financing portion of it.
Okay. First, I would say that for someone to get into an existing business, you're going to need probably at least for a down payment, let's say $50,000.
Okay.
Because again,
what's that based off of? What's that number? Why do you say 50?
Only because I just know what routes typically go for.
Okay.
And 50,000 is a number where that's sort of like
a comfort number.
A comfort number of a low end that you need money up front.
Got it.
Could there be some that maybe are a little less? Yes, but that's not typical. Usually it's around $50,000. Now, for the balance of the purchase price, the beauty of the route business is that sellers have always traditionally understood that to sell their businesses in the route industry, and by the way, I'm not talking about FedEx route. That's a newer business model, and I'll talk about that in a moment.
Sure.
But in the general route business, seller financing has almost always been the direction, not through banks. First, why not through banks? Banks don't understand the route business. The first thing you would do is you go into a bank and say, I'm looking for a business loan. Oh, great. Please fill out this paper. And what is the address of your business? Well, there is no address of the business. I have a truck and I make deliveries. Oh, you want a truck loan? No, I don't want a truck loan. I want a loan to actually buy the business. So the banks really don't understand the business. The only time that I've seen banks actually get involved in financing route businesses is when the company, the master, like Arnold Bread or Bimbo, they used to do financing, and they went through their own bank and Bimbo backed it. So that in actuality, the bank didn't really have to understand the business model as much, because if the note wasn't paid, basically Bimbo was the one who was guaranteeing the bank that route that you don't have to worry about losing any money. So sellers have typically been the ones who did their own financing in the route industry. And usually if you put down anywhere from 40 to 70% of the total purchase price, in many cases, the seller will give you financing for the balance of the purchase price. That's not in many other businesses that you see that, but the reason is what I just told you before is the banks are not loaning money, and they haven't. In the 40 years I've been in the business, I rarely have seen a bank get involved in any financing.
Yeah. So can you just talk about how the seller financing work for people who may not understand that, or just creatively, like what is seller financing?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's say a business is going for $250,000 and the seller says, I want $125,000 down, and the balance, the other $125,000, you can pay me over 5 years at the present time, let's say 7% up to maybe 10% interest. And basically you would be paying the seller a note on a monthly basis for the next 60 months until that note is paid in full. In other words, you don't have to go to the bank to go for any financing approvals or things like that. It's basically the seller and you have worked out your own terms. And like I said, if in most cases the sellers ask us to have one of our attorneys prepare a note that guarantees the seller that he will get paid, and basically he would have usually a lien on the route and a lien on the truck until his note is paid in full. Got it.
And you said the majority of the deals are done that way.
I'm sorry if I stated that wasn't my.
I felt like you said, but maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
In actuality, I would say about 40%
okay.
of the deals are done with seller financing. About 60%, the seller wants to buy another business. He needs the money.
Right.
So he's not prepared to do that. Now, does that reduce the pool of potential buyers?
Yes.
Yes, it does, tremendously. There's obviously only so many people who have $60,000, and there's so many fewer people that have $100,000, and so many fewer people that $150,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000. So basically, if the seller does offer financing, he's definitely going to increase the pool of potential buyers who could purchase this business.
Got it. And the sellers open up their books to you guys completely, right? So you're able to see like the P&Ls and everything, all of the, so like these numbers that you're putting there, they're actual numbers.
Yes.
Right? So
well, let me say this. The beauty again of this business is just such a simple business. You basically want to see what are the purchases. So let's say you were buying, I'm making up another route, Anthony and Sons Italian bread route. Well, you would want to see what are the purchases that the seller had for the last year. And okay, so he purchased $200,000 worth of bread. I'm making up a number.
Yep.
Okay. Now you also want to see how much the seller of the business sold that bread for. So you would see the invoices of what the seller actually charged the stores. So the difference between how much he bought the bread for and how much he sold for the bread for is his gross profit. And by the way, on gross profit, you mentioned it before, a lot of companies, when they say, well, net, they really mean gross. We have never meant gross when we say net.
Right.
Okay. Gross profit is just after the cost of the goods. And then from that, you take out your gas, your insurance, your maintenance, any drivers, any tolls. Basically, those are the expenses. And it's a very simple business model. And that's what makes it very appealing to so many people. And it's easy to get into the business, and it's also easy to get out. What do I mean by that? When someone buys a business, there's always has to be an exit plan too.
100%.
Okay? There's always going to be some time. Not everyone's like me that's in the business for 40 years. Okay?
That's right.
Okay? A truck and hustle is probably going to be another one for 40 years.
No, sir.
Or maybe you're going to take over route brokers. Who knows?
Who knows?
Okay. The truth is that people they always has to have an exit plan. And what we've had over the past 40 years is we've always had more buyers than sellers. We've been through recessionary periods. We've been through inflationary periods. We've been through good periods and bad periods. There's always more buyers than sellers.
What's the ratio?
Ratio?
If you had to guess.
I would say we have 100 buyers for every one route that we have.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
In our database, which we never have sold, and these people have all called us over the years, we have never bought a database, and we never sold our as well. We have over 120,000 people in our database. Now, not all of those do I have emails for, and why? Because emails only came into business, how many years ago?
Maybe about 15, 20 years ago. Yeah.
So some of them are older. I would say that in our database, we have probably about 75,000 people who are in the business either as sellers or buyers and are active in the industry.
So that leads me to another question: Is there a bid process? So does it get competitive sometimes, or if there's multiple buyers looking to purchase one route business, could it potentially raise the price of that business? Does that happen?
What typically happens is this: we tell sellers, you never know who the true buyer is. So be very cautious when you start hearing
too many people.
Yeah. In other words, we will continue to promote every route that we have until we have a firm deposit and a deal worked out between the buyer and the seller. We do not. So if a buyer tells me, I love this business and I'm buying this business for sure. Great. Have you gotten all your questions answered?
Right.
Well, I still have a bunch of questions, but this is for me. Great. Let's get your questions answered, because we can't pull the route off the market because we have 7 brokers and they're all selling the same routes. Okay. So we will not pull any route off the market until you've gotten your questions answered and you're ready to lock up a deal. So basically, when we have a buyer who is at that point, we simply will make the offer to the seller and work out a deal. And if there's a deal to be made, then basically at that point we'll pull it off. We rarely get into bidding wars because what we found is everyone is ready to lock up a deal until they have to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
Okay?
For sure.
And in other words, when someone is actually ready, again, we don't rush people. We want them to get all their questions answered. But when they're ready, at that point, they need to say, hey, I've gotten all my questions answered. I'm 100% sure, 110% sure. Let's lock it up.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges of these businesses? Because we've talked about a lot of good, but I want to be fair to the audience and talk about some of the bad. So what are some of the feedback that you hear from business owners that may be difficult or challenging or something to expect once you get into business, just so you could kind of see it ahead coming?
You need to make sure that you're going to be there to service the business. The biggest issue that I've always told any buyer looking to buy the business is, first of all, owning a business is not for everyone. There are some people who it's just not the right business model. And I respect that. And they will work for a company and they might be very happy with a company and working for a paycheck, working for the man. But owning a business and managing it, that's just not for them. And I don't want someone to get into the business if it's not for them. No one in our not in our industry, but no one at route brokers would ever want that. In other words, we want success because success breeds success. The more people that are successful in the business, the more referrals you get. Most of our business comes from referrals of happy customers who really have had success. So the first thing is you need to be ready to service those customers. If you are not great at working with the public, don't buy a route. because you're going to be dealing with the public.
Customer service.
Customer service. You need to be, and when I say the public, I'm talking about the retailers, because that's who you're really delivering to. You're delivering to the receiving manager at ShopRite. You're delivering to the C-Town convenience stores. You're delivering to the C-stores. In other words, you're delivering to all independent stores like Associated. Those are the types of businesses that you're delivering to. You're delivering to delis. You're delivering to bodegas. You're delivering to bagel stores. You have to make sure that you have a good relationship, because also having a good relationship will set you up to do more business. You'll get more shelf space. You'll get more opportunities to where you'll get a referral of, hey, my friend is opening up a deli. Can you service him? Yes. And you won't lose customers. So I would say the pitfalls are, if you're not into really working with the public and service and ready to be there when customers need you. Hey, let's say you own a bagel store and you have someone coming in for a party and they need a 7-foot hero. And you order from me a 7-foot hero. And let's say I don't deliver that 7-foot hero when you need it.
Right.
You'll never do business with me again.
That's right.
And I don't blame you. Okay, because I just lost the customer, and that customer is going to be really pissed at me because he was having a party and he needed that 7-foot hero. Yeah. And I needed it a few hours in advance to prepare it.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's service. You got to be ready for service. And I would also say that everyone, when you buy a business, you should have a certain amount of dollars in excess of the purchase price, just for those rainy day type of things. I would definitely tell anyone buying a route, excuse me, that you should be in a position where you check out the truck in advance, okay, of purchasing the business. You're not getting a new truck, and if you were getting a new truck, the price would be higher, okay?
Right.
But the truck should be operational, not have something where the brakes have 200 miles left on them. In other words, it should be that you're not going to have any major issues for at least 6 months. In other words, where you know that you're not going to have any issues with the truck. But you're not buying a new truck. But those would be the types of things that you have to be ready. You get a flat tire. You have to fix it.
Yeah.
In other words, you can't have no dollars in the bank after you make the purchase.
That's right. You said hero. That's interesting. I haven't heard that word in a while. Another one. Hey, hoagie.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
You're from Philly. Okay.
That's right. All right. So another question based off of that. Is there any training or guidance that the master depots offer for like customer service to teach the owner operators how they're supposed to deal with these customers, or is that kind of something you just have to figure out on your own?
No. First of all, before the closing, the seller will train the buyer in the operation of the route. And especially if there's owner financing, you bet that seller's
Right.
going to train the buyer
sure.
in the operation route because he wants to make sure he gets paid.
That's right.
Okay. And if he doesn't train you properly, then you might not do something right. And he wants to make sure that the route continues to prosper. But even if it's a cash deal, which again, about 60% of the time it is going to be a cash deal, you're going to be in a situation where the seller will do at least 2 weeks of training before closing. And sometimes there's even some training done after the date of closing. And the company also will do, in some cases, I'm talking about the master distributor.
Yep.
In some cases, they will also want to do some training. They might want to meet with you to make sure that you know how to operate the business, because they don't want headaches after the closing.
Right. Got it. Okay. Let's talk about what you guys do at Route Brokers. Let's talk about analyzing the deal. What are some of the I guess maybe the pillars or the frameworks that you guys look at when you're analyzing a deal and for your customers?
Analyzing the deal when a buyer is ready to buy a business?
On both sides. So if there's a seller, like if a buyer wants to buy and they're coming through you and they're saying, okay, is this a good deal? Or I don't know exactly how it would work. Would it be the seller? Like, what are you looking at to analyze a deal?
We want the seller to provide us with as much data as possible of what his sales were. Usually we're talking about at least for the 1 year period prior to the closing. So what we're looking for is a tradition so that we could see a history of how the route was operating, what the expenses have been during that period, and basically to really determine what the true net is. We're not, hey, these are businesses. If someone is claiming their wife's car as part of the business expense, I understand why they might be doing it and why their accountant might be encouraging them to do something like that. But that's not a business expense. So when we always want to do a recast of the true business expenses that are necessary to operate the route. That's on the seller side. And we will compile all of that information so that the buyer will be given, I think I mentioned it earlier, a snapshot of each of the routes, and the seller can also prove out all of that information to the buyer when the buyer and seller meet. And the buyer and seller, obviously, they will be meeting, and the buyer we want him to ride on the route. Sometimes a buyer will come in and say, oh, based upon everything you said, I want this route. And we say, well, you can't put down a deposit. We won't accept the deposit until you've met with the seller, because sometimes when you meet with the seller, he'll give you additional information. You'll want additional facts. We want to make sure that you have everything answered. On the buyer side, what we do is we really try to make sure that the buyer understands what this business is all about. And we try to help them based upon how much they have to invest, how much they need to net. Now, almost everyone, when I ask them, how much do you need to net, I'll hear people say stuff like, well, I want to net, about $150,000, or $3,000 a week.
Right.
And I typically will ask them, and what do you currently do? Okay, he tells me, and how much are you netting right now? Well, probably about $1,000 a week. I say, so in other words, why is it that you need $3,000? He says, it's not that I need $3,000. I want $3,000, and I don't blame you.
Right.
Why not need $5,000?
Right.
Okay, but do you have the dollars in your savings to have the dollars available to invest in it so that you can purchase a business that's netting $3,000, $5,000? One of the beauties of the business is you can buy a business. Let's say you were netting $1,000 a week in your own business, working for someone, and you buy a route that's netting $1,100, $1,200. These are small routes. Well, the beauty of the route business is you could now build up that route. And the minute you get one additional customer, that customer, you're now making more money every single week, and you've increased the asset value of the business so that when you one day want to sell that business, you can sell it at a profit.
Yeah, makes sense. Are there any other ways? I can't think of any, but are there any other ways to add value to a route aside from adding on customers? I'm just putting it out there.
Yes, there are. Shelf space and relationships.
Okay.
If you have good relationships with your stores, you can add new product lines, which would give you additional sales. You can add additional shelf space that has to be with the store owner's approval. You can basically, and also look for additional stops. There's always a way to add on to a route. I remember having a customer once who bought a small chip route. I think it was a Wise route, if my memory serves me correct. And it was netting like $700 a week. And he came to me, and probably about 2 years later, and he said, I want to sell my route. And I said, okay, great. Things went well with it. Yeah, he says things went well. I said, well, how much is the route netting? Well, about $800 a week. I said, oh, so you built it up in 2 years only from 700 to 800? He says, no. it's netting right now about $1,900 a week. I'm just selling off $800 a week.
Oh, wow.
So in other words, and most people say to me, well, who doesn't have Wise potato chips in the store? Well, if you have that attitude, you're probably not a go-getter. And in your case, that person wouldn't be a hustler. Okay?
That's right.
There's no truck and hustle in that person.
Not at all. Not at all.
In other words, if you just focus on, hey, I want to build up stops, the hustler is the one who makes the money. In other words, because there's always locations. I remember a customer picking up a location at a train stop. In other words, the guy had a little stand with magazines and this and that, gum and stuff, but he didn't have any chips there. But the station, it was the Great Neck station in Great Neck, Long Island, and he didn't have any chips. Well, all of a sudden, the guy who had the route for that area, he went over to him. He says, "Hey, would you take chips?" Sure, I have room for it. He now had a great customer. He was probably generating an extra, $80 a week just from that one customer because he had so much business. Yeah. But if you don't look for the customers, you don't find the customers.
Yeah. So that's actually the game. The game is to try to buy a route and build up a route. Like you go into it looking for different opportunities where you can add more value to this route and maybe sell it one day or whatever, just make more income, right? That's the whole game.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right. So so I'm just going to go to my notepad. I haven't been here all day, but so I wanted to look at a deal that's actually posted on your website right now. I just want you to kind of tell me about it. So there's a FedEx Ground deal. This thing is going for $1.899 million. It nets $9,770 a week. And I just want to talk about some of the points. So you said this is a high net route. So what does that mean? Just high? Just talk about that.
Well, it's netting how much? I'm not looking at
$9,770 per week.
Okay. That is the net profit after paying for gas, insurance, maintenance, the drivers. I think on that route there's probably 45 drivers total. Nerds, those including backup drivers, also paying for workman's compensation, also doing the matching of the Social Security and Medicare, because as you have employees who work for you.
After 50.
You have to match that. All of that is taken out after paying the insurance expense on that route alone. You could be talking about $400,000 a year just for the trucks. In other words, all of those expenses are taken out, and after all of that, he is netting almost $10,000 on a weekly basis that goes into his pocket. He's paying managers. In other words, he has, I think, 3 managers on that particular route.
Yeah.
And the route's in a growing area. I know the area. It's in Florida. I have a home down there as well.
Notice it said a home. That means that's – go ahead. Never mind. Just had to point that out. Go ahead. Okay. We've been selling a lot of routes, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Basically, this is a great area. It's growing by leaps and bounds, and it would be a great opportunity for the right person. First of all, the right person needs to be someone who could get through the FedEx approval process, okay? But the right person also has to have the money to buy it. Now, on a FedEx route, a lot of people, especially over COVID, started going for these SBA loans. And on FedEx routes, because everything is on the books, because you're getting a paycheck from FedEx.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is nothing that's not on the books.
Right.
Every driver is on the books. In other words, there's nothing going under the table. So because of that, the banks will loan money on a FedEx route. Usually you could buy a FedEx route with probably about 10-20% down. So if it's going for $2 million, the figure coming up with at least $200,000. But I would say coming up with more would be better, and you could get an SBA loan. But on FedEx routes, they have to have at least 3 years tax returns available for the banks. Okay, because the banks, to get an SBA loan, you do need a 3-year history of the route operations.
Okay, got it. Let's continue down. So the managers are in place, so it's already staffed. Absentee, what does that mean?
Well, the current owner of that route actually owns another business, a very successful business as well. But so he has managers running this business for him. And so does he still keep an eye on the business? Absolutely. When you have a business like that, you got to keep an eye on it. But he basically he doesn't need to be there on a day-to-day basis.
Mel don't got to show up if he don't want to. There's already people running the business. The operation is good.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I love that. And then you said fully overlapped. What does that mean?
Good question. FedEx has been going through a period where they're overlapping the home and ground routes. It used to be that there were routes that delivered to people's homes, and they were like business routes, which were the ground routes. FedEx is overlapping all of those, and what that means is they're combining them so that if you have a territory, you're delivering both to the homes and to the businesses. Not where it used to be that the businesses were, and when I say businesses, it could have been some homes too, but basically, let's call it homes and businesses. The businesses were being delivered by one group of route owners, and the home deliveries were being done by another group. They've overlapped those two groups. And now it's not in every depot have they been finished with the overlapping business, but in this particular case, they have been overlapped, which also makes it easier to operate.
I love that.
It's much more efficient.
And then, so there's 24 trucks. And that's $450,000 worth of truck value. That's what that is?
That's correct.
So that's, you own those trucks now. That's something that you can sell off or do whatever you want to do with it.
Well, you wouldn't sell it off because you need those trucks to operate it.
But I'm saying, like, if you wanted to exit, well, I guess you'd just sell it again to somebody else.
That's correct. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. And then,
but that's included in the purchase price. Like all of those trucks are not necessarily currently owned free and clear. He probably owes money on a bunch of those trucks. But at closing, he will pay off all of those trucks, the seller, and you will own all of those trucks free and clear.
Okay, got it. So that's 1.89 million. So that's would you say that's that's one of your higher routes?
Higher priced routes?
Higher price routes for sale?
Yeah.
All right. So
presently.
Give me an example of one that's a lower price route.
A lower price route.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I think, a Utz route. Utz Snacks.
Okay, tell me about it.
I think it's netting $800 a week. Well, let me look. I think I have a chart here. Let me just make sure I'm not giving you. Okay, I have an Utz route that's netting $1,050 per week.
Per week, net in your pocket
after all expenses.
And
by the way, I should say that's an average net. We never base it upon what the best week is and what the worst week is because routes do fluctuate.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay.
Of course.
Nerds. So it's not going to be where every week you might have a week that you net $1,300.
So you're taking the high and the low and you're giving the median.
Not just the median. We take actually the average for the year.
Okay, got it.
So we try to be a little. We think that that's a more accurate way of doing it, as opposed to saying, "Well, he has 1,300, he has 800, so that's 1,000."
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
We're saying, well, if he has more weeks that are 800, then it might not be 1,000, maybe it's 900.
Right.
So we try to look at the full year and try to come up with what's a fair net. Okay. And again, that's after all expenses. That route's going for $139,000. And it's only 24 hours a week.
24 hours a week?
That's it. He's working short hours.
So they do 1 day worth of work?
24 hours per week.
Oh, okay.
Per week.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
so if I break that down, so it's maybe like 4 hours a day or something like that.
Yeah. Well, he works, in this particular case, he works four and a quarter, 4.5 days a week.
Okay.
But it's short hours, which is nice. Because that means there's a lot of room to build it up. And there's also, you're in a situation where you can do something else in the other time.
Yeah.
So you could either want to build it up, or you can have other things, or just be home with your family.
And what's the area on that one? What's the location?
That particular one is in Bergen County.
Okay. That's North Jersey, right?
Yeah. Right by the George Washington Bridge.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Okay, Ramal, so do you want to go out on it this week or next week?
I mean, I like that. Always selling, baby. Always be closing. ABC. I love it. Oh, man. Okay. All right, cool. Man,
if any other questions, I mean, I'm happy.
Tell me about some other ones that's interesting on there. I'll have questions for days. I'm loving this conversation. Give me.
I'm ready to come back anytime you want.
Give me something that's like the gas line route. Like, give me another one of those that like nobody would expect would be like, oh, there's a route for that. Like, give me one of those or a couple of those or something.
See if I have something. Well, I have one that's you probably would think that it's a route.
Okay,
Mr. Softy.
Mr. Ice Cream.
Ice cream. Right. Getting hungry. Yeah. Doodly.
Right. Okay. And I never knew that Mr. Softy had like routes that you could sell. I always thought that it would come from the Mr. Softy distributor.
No, they're all individual routes. And you actually own the truck. The truck is actually extremely valuable. It's not the actual truck that's valuable. It's all of the equipment on the route. The compressor, the freezers, the ice cream bins and stuff like that.
Right.
So usually the trucks are worth around at least $30,000, even if it's an older truck, because of the equipment. In this particular case, the seller has been in the business for a long time, and he owns, I think he owns around 7 or 8 Mr. Softy routes.
Okay.
And he's just selling off. He's been doing it for about 30 years. And he's just selling off a few of the routes. He's not selling all of his routes. He's just selling a few of them. And this is a seasonal route. It works, I think it's like 31 weeks a year. And in that 31 weeks, I have anywhere from one that's netting $1,175 a week to one that's netting $2,450 a week. So, and then basically in the wintertime, you go down to Florida. You come visit me.
Now this guy is actually delivering like the dairy and stuff to the Mr. Softies, like the standing stores, right?
No.
Or this is actually the ice cream truck?
No, this is an ice cream truck that goes to the neighborhoods, goes to the events.
Okay. Yeah. I thought that, because there's the freestanding Mr. Softies also.
Yeah,
like
this is nothing to do with that.
Nothing to do with that.
Yeah, we don't sell any brick and mortar business.
Okay, got you. Yeah. No, I was saying I thought it was like the delivery to the brick and mortar.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I got you.
The ice cream, and I thought that was so this is actually the ice cream truck.
Right.
So that's interesting too, because with the routes on, I thought this ice cream trucks drove wherever, just drove around till they saw kids.
No, they have...
I swear to you, I just thought they'd look for kids and then they just turn the music on.
They do look for kids, but they have protected territories. So no one else with a Mr. Softy truck can go into the territory that you're in.
Or else there's Mr. Softy beef.
Mr. Softy.
There's beef. This is beef. Hey, you're in my territory, pal. What are you doing?
No, but that's where the master distributor comes in.
Right.
Because same thing with the Wise routes, the Mission routes, and all of those other routes. Basically, the master distributor is the one who makes sure that doesn't happen. If you see someone else in your territory, you don't have to go over to that guy directly.
Right.
But it's not going to happen.
It doesn't happen. Everybody understands the game.
It doesn't happen is if you don't abide by the rules of Mr. Softy could say, hey, you're playing games, you're out of here. We won't sell you product anymore.
Yeah.
In other words, if you don't stay out of other people's territories, we're not going to sell you any product. Now you don't have a route to operate at all.
That's right. That's
okay?
right.
That's where the beauty of the master distributor is.
I love it. Where are the lists of all these routes? Where can people find? Is this just something that's like that you have? They have to come through you, or do you have like this posted somewhere publicly?
No, we have a lot of routes available. We list maybe 20, 25 on our website, but basically we have new routes coming in all the time, and that's why we encourage the buyers to give us a call. We'll work with them. Again, we don't charge them a dime for our services. Even when they purchase, the seller pays all of our fees. So we'll take the time to review everything. And that's what we're known for. We're known for really working hand in hand with the buyer to make sure that he really understands what he's getting into and to try to assist him in making the best decision for him and his family.
Yeah, I love it, man. This has been fun. So before we go, traditionally on this show, you put that paper. I'm gonna have to look at that. Matter of fact, just get that to me. but traditionally on this show, we always do two things before we end. Number one, we have to let everybody know where they can connect with you directly, where they can, and learn more about route brokers, obviously. And then lastly, we always give a final thought, and that's something that's just entrepreneurial. You've been an entrepreneur for 40 years, so I'm sure there's some wisdom you can impart on the fellow entrepreneurs out there. That's just some, business advice or, whatever comes to mind, right? So let's do those two things. So number one, where can people learn more about route brokers, learn more about the routes that you guys have for sale, and how can they connect with you?
Okay. Route brokers, first of all, is a federal trademark. And so we are at routebrokers.com. That's ROUTEBROKERS.com. And where there is only one Route Brokers. As a matter of fact, I mentioned earlier that when I went into this business 40 years ago, they weren't even referred to as routes. They were referred to as distributor businesses or distribution businesses. We coined the term route brokers, and that's how we got a federal trademark for it. Basically, if anyone goes to our website or they call our main number, 516-482-8250, our brokers are always available for you anytime. You rarely, if you call during business hours, you will rarely get an answering machine. In other words, we actually are there and we pick up the phone. And we would encourage buyers and sellers to give us a call whenever they are, even if they just want to discuss the business. They don't have to be ready to buy. They don't have to be ready to sell. We're there to try to assist them in any way we can.
Got it. I love it. And then the final words from you as an entrepreneur, 40 years. Obviously, you work with a bunch of entrepreneurs on a regular basis. What kind of wisdom or what kind of advice can you give the people out there?
What I've always told people is this: if you have a good idea and you're willing to work and hustle, and I'm not just trying to use your name in particular,
right,
but if you're really willing to work hard, hustle, and make sure that you keep on going after your vision, you will be successful. You have to have a good idea in the first place. But if you give up, it's over. Never give up. Keep on selling. And we encourage everyone to be successful, to be happy, and to have a great career in this industry. You can be very, very successful.
That's right. If you don't respect that, your whole perspective is whack. Hustle fam, you know what we do around this time. If you smell something burning, it's only a desire. Today was another amazing conversation with Mr. Ken SUSSMAN from Route Brokers, Inc. Ken, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
This has been great.
Look forward to meeting you.
We got to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. You just set up the time. I'm here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hustle fam, we are out.
Okay.